Remember during the pandemic when essential workers all had to go to work, but their kids were stuck at home because school was all remote? That moment led to an explosion of interest in childcare and its role in our economy. Parents can't leave their kids at home alone, after all. So New York poured billions of dollars into childcare with new subsidies, sparking a brief era of childcare affordability. But now the money's running out. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Pearsall Wealth Management at UBS Wealth Management USA, subsidiary UBS AG, member FINRA SIPC, 1 Broad Street, Glens Falls.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Thursday, June 5th. First up, a Jefferson County jury awarded $5.6 million to a man from Alexandria Bay for mishandled hospital care that resulted in the amputation of his leg. In June 2018, Roger Altman was admitted to Samaritan Medical Center in Watertown with signs of severe illness and critically low blood pressure. According to his lawyer, a delay in medical intervention led to an above-the-knee amputation of Altman's leg. Soon after, the surgical site became infected, requiring a second procedure to amputate higher up to his hip. The jury found the medical center liable for the actions of the physician who was working on a temporary basis. This case marks the second significant malpractice verdict involving a leg amputation at Samaritan Medical Center in recent years. A group of Democratic lawmakers in Albany is pushing to restructure the state's home care program, which they say has become more dysfunctional under changes pushed by Governor Kathy Hochul. Jung-Yoon Han reports for the New York Public News Network.
The Medicaid home care program has over 200,000 consumers and about as many personal care assistants. Hochul and state health officials have ordered the program to transition to one company to oversee payments and processing for workers. But State Senator Gustavo Rivera says that transition, which was supposed to be done by April 1st, is still delayed and riddled with issues.
So first stage, workers not getting paid. Second stage, workers leaving the program. And the third stage, again, we're seeing it right now, is the participants not getting the care that they need and that they're entitled to.
The Bronx Democrat is proposing the state remove the requirement that only one company handle payments and instead create stricter licensing standards for companies hired to do the work.
We want to make sure that the good actors can maintain their operation while the bad actors go away.
Lawmakers have until mid-June, when the legislative session ends, to vote on the bill. In Albany, I'm Jung-Yoon Han for the New York Public News Network.
In New York State, low and even middle-income families can get help paying for licensed childcare for their children. Expanding that program has been a big part of Governor Kathy Hochul's policy agenda, with bipartisan support from the state legislature. And the good news is it's worked. The number of families using child care assistance has nearly tripled in just 3 years. But that success has come at a price, literally, and money for the program is running out. That means some families are losing the child care they've come to rely on. Amy Feiereisel has the story.
In New York State, a family of 4 making $108,000 a year or less is now eligible for child care assistance, which covers the majority of daycare costs. That's changed the game for some working families.
It's something almost like a lifeline for a lot of these families.
Lex Bissett is the executive director of Tiny Leaders Children's Center, which has 2 child care locations in northern New York, one in Plattsburgh and one in Malone. She's seen firsthand what child care assistance can do.
Low-income families, it might be the difference of them being able to work or attend school or care for other responsibilities that they have while knowing their child is safe and in an educational environment.
It's also changed things for child care providers. Bissett says child care assistance is what made it possible for Tiny Leaders to open its second center in Malone, where 90% of families are on it. But here's the problem. The state is running out of money. New York puts about $1.8 billion every year into the child care assistance program. Pete Nabozny is director of policy for the Children's Agenda, a statewide advocacy group.
It turns out that the number of families that availed themselves of this program was greater than I think the state anticipated.
Nabozny says that's because of increased eligibility, but also because the state made it easier to apply and increased how much providers were paid per child.
This is it's a reflection of the success of this initiative to see that many families receiving help affording the cost of childcare, but they just didn't have enough resources committed to the program.
New York State gives each county a set amount of money for childcare assistance. But demand is so high that 15 counties have run out of those funds this year, including most of the North Country: Essex, Franklin, Hamilton, Warren, Washington, and Lewis counties. That means counties are having to waitlist new families and even drop some existing ones from the program. At Tiny Leaders Child Care Center in Malone, Lex Bissett says 5 families have already lost their assistance. That means those parents are now on the hook for about $1,200 per month per child.
I couldn't imagine as a parent myself being told that one day and, your whole world is flipped upside down and now you need to figure it all out.
The threat of losing childcare assistance is a really scary thing for families who rely on it. I spoke with a mom of 2 in Franklin County who says she and her partner can't afford the full cost of childcare. I'm using just her first name, Brooke, because she has a public-facing job that could be impacted by the personal information she shared.
To lose the funding, I honestly don't know if that means we won't be able to get a house, if that means one of us is going to have to leave our current positions. I can't bring myself, I don't want to think about it yet.
And when a family loses assistance, it puts childcare providers in a really tough spot. Do they kick the family out of the center? Do they keep watching kids for free if families can't pay? Lex Bissett says Tiny Leaders has chosen the second option, but that means the center is losing money, about $1,500 a week.
Obviously, it puts a strain on us because if we're still keeping the kids and we still need the same number of educators.
It's something no provider can do for long, especially if more families lose childcare assistance. Joe Sieber is afraid it could potentially bankrupt providers.
We have all these childcare providers that are going to go out of business. That economic ripple effect that'll have across the county is substantial.
Sieber is the director of social services for St. Lawrence County. He says the county will run out of childcare assistance funds in July. He dreads having to take away assistance from families once that happens. And he's frustrated because he says the state created this situation.
They understood that we were going to exceed our allocations this year. That's the most frustrating part of it because, St. Lawrence County did everything we were supposed to do. We did what the state asked us to do, what the state mandated us to do.
Now they're at this crossroads, and Sieber says the county is trying to decide whether to take on the additional childcare costs themselves, potentially millions of dollars every year that they haven't budgeted for.
We are a county that has traditionally been economically depressed, that has traditionally have a higher unemployment rate. This is the last thing that a rural county like St. Lawrence County can handle.
When asked about the shortfall of funds, the state's Office of Children and Family Services told NCPR that as more families have become eligible for assistance, the state has, quote, continued to make supplemental funding available for counties to ensure kids can stay enrolled. That includes an additional $400 million for next year. And that's a lot of money, but it's not enough to actually bridge the difference. For example, St. Lawrence County is set to receive just $250,000 more. Sieber says that's a drop in the bucket.
That's less than a month's worth at our current rate with the current number of people using it.
Groups like the Children's Agenda say the state needs to fully fund the program in next year's budget, and that in the interim, it should give counties more discretion on how to disperse funds. Brooke, the mom in Franklin County, says that people have built their lives around the child care assistance.
I'm really hoping that somebody opens their eyes and realizes how important this is and how many families that this affects. Whether they're farmers, whether they're working for a state agency, whether, they work in the school system, what is everybody supposed to do?
That's a question that families, their child care providers, and the state are all going to have to answer. Amy Feiereisel, North Country Public Radio.
We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. Music today by Mark Corey of Watertown and Michael Hart and Ramon Vasquez of Malone. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.